So let's dive right into, yeah, let's just have a bit of a chat just about what we're seeing in the market. So, like what you just mentioned, it's absolutely important the mindset that you have going into these kind of investments, because many of the investors we work with that are the most successful have that mindset where they're not just jumping in, jumping out. They're not getting hyped up because the market's going up. They're not getting discouraged because the market is slowing down. They have that consistent mindset of this is the investment vehicle that they want to put their money in to grow. And they're going to look for good deals regardless whether the market's going up, whether it's going down. And definitely that focus on cash flow as the determinant of a good deal, I think is the most important piece, right? Because if we're always just trying to find undervalued properties just based on what someone else is willing to buy it on the MLS, I don't necessarily look at that as a good deal, because you can buy a great deal in a rough neighborhood that attracts the worst tenants, that doesn't have cash flow. Like I don't see that as a good deal. I just see that as headaches, right? Problems, phone calls, just things to deal with. Versus a deal like what you just helped this client purchase, produces positive cash flow, builds equity, deals with the best type of tenants, right? Paying market rent, you're able to really attract that A type of tenant. And you've already shown that it can also produce equity, which definitely over the long term it can. Predictably, in the short term, we'll get instances like this, maybe not all the time, but definitely as a long term vehicle, that's absolutely our strategy. And what we've found is these type of clients with this mindset have been pulling the trigger since COVID started, right? We've had clients just continuously purchase, whether the market's been flat, going down, going up. They've just been continuously making the purchasing decision because they had that fundamental. And right now, like we were just discussing before the call started, this market is getting interesting because we've had 2 months, I think, of this crazy increase, multiple bidding wars, prices increasing almost like 100, 150,000 in some neighborhoods. And there's almost a plateauing. There's this sense of buyers getting a little bit tired because they've seen so many homes get sold 100 grand over asking. They're starting to not offer on offer nights. And we're seeing more and more deals where on offer night, there's no offers, right? Because everyone either expects it to go so high, they're tired of offering, right? Yeah. I mean, why don't you share a little bit? What are you seeing on the streets right now in some of the offers you've been making?
Yeah, it's really like kind of just like to echo what you said there. It's very interesting that I think we're seeing a bit of there's a bit of a switch in the market, right? Because when we were looking at, even if we go back to say December, because I think it's kind of really when we started to see peak, I guess, or start to like really hit
Mm,
that curve to go up, and it kind of went through, January and February. I
yeah.
particularly was just very, very crazy. And when at that point in time, when whether you were a listing agent or a buyer's agent, you're always looking at comparables, right?
Yeah.
To basically try and find what's going on. And so on the listing side, during those say that 3 month period, there was no comparables. So you were looking at, a house and say it's listed, you're like, okay, nearest comparables, 400 or 395. It's like, okay, so let's list it for 399, and then it sells for 510,
Yeah.
and you're like, okay, so but there was no comparables there, right?
Yes.
So then over the course of these 3 months, it's been starting to get very active, and now we're actually starting to get comparables. Like I gave some
Mm.
comparables for a gentleman on the property we were looking at the other day, and there was four on the same street that sold in the last month. I got a pretty good idea of what this
Yeah.
house is going to sell for because they're all within 30 grand, and it's basically dependent upon the finishes of the house, right? Like
Mm.
that's kind of a predictable market. And so when you go in there on the listing agent side, now you can actually price a house at what you're expecting it to sell for. And so there's this kind of mix in our market right now where some agents are doing that because they're able to. And so, they're, maybe there's a price that, it's going to sell between 520 and 540, and they're pricing it at, 499 or something. And it's pretty, we got a very good idea of what's going to be happening here. But because these list prices are high and buyers have been conditioned to essentially, for the last 3 months, everything was selling 100,000 over asking
Yeah.
because there was no comparables for anybody to look at. And it was just like, we need a home, we have to buy, and what's going on here kind of thing, right? Particularly when you throw the end users into the mix who like
Mm.
may very well have been homeless if they weren't
Yeah.
able to buy or they had to rent or something, right? So now we're seeing this, and you have this kind of, they're conditioned to expect it to go 100,000 over, and it's priced at 490, and they're like, well, I can't pay 590. Right. And it's like, but the listing agent's like, no, like just look at the comparable sales. Like it only needs to be like 510, 520. Like we're not asking for anything crazy here. Right.
Yeah.
And so offer night comes and no offers come. Now,
Mm.
obviously the listing agent at that point in time, has to do a little bit more legwork and can make some phone calls. And, we're still seeing the sold prices to be within the range we're expecting the sold prices to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But these crazy offer nights aren't the same. That being
Yeah.
said, depends on where you're looking at, because there was another property yesterday where it was priced probably a little bit lower when there maybe were some comparables or not, and it sold for 100 and I think 115 or something
Yeah.
over asking, right? Where the same night there was properties that were like very similar and they got one or two offers.
Yeah.
Right, but they were just priced closer to where they're ultimately going to sell, right? So it's very interesting right now. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, in a way, this just shines a light on why we focus on properties in better neighborhoods. Because if you ever want to sell the property, if it's a booming market, you'll sell it regardless of what neighborhood it's in. But right now, we have two listings in the city of Hamilton, one on the mountain, one in the lower city. So the lower city is kind of the downtown Hamilton. Now, even that client is an investor and she's selling the property, and that property is in a nicer part of the lower city. But the lower city of Hamilton is considered, the not as nice part compared to the Hamilton Mountain, right? And what we're seeing is we had an offer night and we got no offers. We had like 16 showings in a week, and then no offers came on offer night. So now we've relisted it at the price they want, and we're just going to wait for an offer. But compare that with the listing we have on the Hamilton Mountain, on a court, in a beautiful neighborhood, similar condition of property. They're both, were rentals. They're not fully updated or anything. They're just, cleaned and painted. This one has already received a bully offer. We've already got a few agents saying that they will be bringing offers on the offer nights. Even though the market has cooled a little bit, the better neighborhoods are still preserving that demand and that attention, right? So as investors, this is important to know, because if we want to protect ourselves in the future, if there's ever a down market, it would be better to own the better properties in the better neighborhoods, because there's going to be more potential buyers looking at our type of properties. But yeah, it's a very interesting time, because in a funny way, I've noticed this a few times just working with investors, these cycles, right? And we were having these chats even, I think, in January and in February, where it was crazy. And I think we discussed this is probably the hardest time it'll ever be to work with investors or to be an investor, right? Just the craziness we were experiencing. But these times never last. And right now, I wouldn't say it's slowed down, because there's still multiple offers. There's still offer nights. It's not completely flat, but even these times don't last. So if you're an investor kind of on the sidelines, if you're starting to be a little bit hesitant because you're seeing more listings, you're seeing maybe prices aren't increasing the same way they were the first 2 months, that's the same thing we experienced last March, where things started to slow down. The property prices weren't increasing anymore, right? Even last year, January, February, prices were increasing, and then March, they flatlined. April, they flatlined. Those were, looking back, the best times to buy in the last 12, the last couple of years, right? Where things were slow, you could put conditions, you could get a deal.
We're
Definitely
getting
right.
an SOP accepted last year, last month.
and,
that
and
seems like
that's
a whole nother planet ago.
yeah. SOB, for those who don't know, is sale of buyer's home condition, right? So it's someone buying a house with a condition that they're going to sell their home first before they firm up. So yeah, well, it's crazy, because we were even helping a person buy a home in Niagara Falls, a little bit nicer home, right? Not our typical investor home. And they were initially trying to get a sale of buyer's home condition. That was a property that was in the higher end market that had been on the market for close to 90 days, right? So a different market, much slower. Even in active times, those type of homes don't move so quickly. On the day we decide to put an offer, we get two other offers. But still got it for like 50 grand under asking, because just it was listed higher. That was the market. But they had to drop all their conditions. They literally went from a sale of buyer's home condition, a 2-week financing and inspection condition. They ripped it all down to 3 business days for inspection. That's it. But they got it. So it kind kind of all worked out. Last few words of advice: if someone's a new investor looking to get started, looking to maybe do the duplex conversion strategy, has the down payment either saved or in the equity in their home, what would you say are the best first steps for them to take? How can they get started? What's the best way for them to prepare themselves, either mentally or just in terms of the actions they should be taking?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, once you kind of get to that point where you're starting to think about it, I think, you know, obviously there's kind of two people you're going to need to talk to. Kind of reaching out to one of Team Kokun's advisors, myself, Kokun, Jiva, or one of us, and kind of getting that ball rolling in terms of where you want to invest and kind of learning about that area. I think that's a huge part of it. Kind of getting set up, seeing where the homes are, seeing what homes are selling for, so you can do that, and then kind of coming down and actually being able to see where
Mhm.
things are and kind of
Yeah.
having a visit. And then additionally, one thing that we can help you out with, or whether if you've got somebody you work with and you trust, kind of getting that next steps down the mortgage line,
Yes.
so that you can also kind of get an idea of where we're buying, right?
Yeah.
Because just because you've got a $200,000 down payment doesn't mean you know you can buy $1 million home, right?
Yeah.
So kind of getting in there and kind of figuring out exactly where you are and the type of investing, and that's something that together working with a member of our team and a mortgage broker, that's really where you can kind of start to refine and know where you're going to
Mhm.
be able to invest and maximize your dollars, basically.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I especially like the part about coming to see properties, because I find you can learn from looking at listings. Like even the hot deals we send out to our clients, we break down the numbers. You can see the listing. It gives you information, a sense of what to expect, but it's a completely different picture once you actually come to see the property. Because then you get a real sense of why we target the homes we target, the neighborhoods we look at, the strategies we implement. If some of our clients who've already bought are in the middle of a project, we'll sometimes even ask if we can bring you through one of their projects to kind of give you a sense of these are the types of homes that our clients have already purchased, right? And this is what we recommend. So we're not necessarily just going to help you buy the first home that's available on the market. We're going to look for a property that meets our strict criteria as a good investment, right? So definitely coming
Mm.
out is huge.
Just so you know the area too, I think, right? I
Yeah.
think it's one of those things where I've been kind of jokingly lately because of COVID and everything. Sometimes it's nice when you can hop in the same car and give somebody a tour of the area, obviously, right? Obviously, we can't
Yes.
do that. So now, basically, if I'll do a little caravan with
Yeah.
people and, kind of just basically just be like the bus tour guide. So this is, these are our A-class areas, right? And so I think it really helps gain a perspective. Even if I'm going to go invest in another city, I want to drive around. I want to see, okay, where's D? What does D look like here? What
Mm,
does A look like here?
yeah.
And what is my money going to get me? It helps build that picture in your frame and makes you comfortable, particularly if you're not investing where you live, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, especially I think for those investors that are open to putting offers without seeing the property, right? Similar to our client here who purchased this home.
Mhm.
Definitely come at least once, right? Get a sense of the neighborhood, get a sense of the streets, get a sense of the properties, so that if we find an opportunity that's super time sensitive, you need to make a decision in 2 hours, like this deal, you've already seen the city, you've already seen the neighborhoods, you have a sense of what to expect. Obviously, we're going to try to preview the home, do a quick video, make sure that we see the home as well. We're checking our usual criteria to make sure it fits. But I think just from the investor side, if I were in their shoes trying to buy a property as an investment without seeing it, if like I have a super busy work schedule, live in Toronto, right, and can't make it out, definitely come at least once on a weekend when you're available, when one of us is available. Check out the streets, check out the neighborhoods. I think it's just a great place to get started. And the funny thing is, I've noticed with quite a few of our clients, the ones who come out more often, right? We pre-book sort of an appointment to just come, even if there's no properties available, we'll sort of
Yeah.
book it out. They get lucky. All of a sudden, the day before they come out, there's like the best property just pops on the market, and it's like, okay, let's go check that out. And it turns out to be like the best deal ever. And some of these properties, even the photos are terrible. So you don't even know from the listing if it's like a great property or not. But then because you already have the appointment booked, we kind of add it to the list, we go check it out, and then it's like this is the best one ever.
Just to kind of like take action, whatever that next step is for you, whether it's, you say you've been afraid to call a mortgage broker because you don't, or, you've been afraid to reach out to us because, you're not quite ready yet. Like just make that phone call, make that email. Maybe you've been talking to us and you don't, or you've been talking to somebody and you haven't come down yet. Let's come down. Let's come see some properties. Let's, you kind of make that next step, because it's always seems scarier when it's unknown. And then, you do it and it's like, okay, it's not that bad. It's like a roller coaster, right? You're always super afraid to get on it, super afraid to get on it. And then you get on it and like, okay, we're doing that again. Right. So it's, I was talking with another investor and he was saying that he joint ventured with someone and they're like, I only want to do one. It was a chore to get them to do it. And then they did it and like, when are we doing the next one? Right. So it's always scary when it's unknown until you do it. Right. So whatever that kind of thing is for you, whether it's, maybe you're trying to jump into multifamily or whatever it is, that kind of next thing that you're looking to do, take that next step, make that phone call, send that email, and see where it takes you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's great advice for investing and even in life in general. It's like just taking action when, not necessarily to buy a property if you're not ready, but to take the first step towards getting to that goal, right? Or if you want to start a business, take that first step. If you want to switch your jobs, look for jobs, right? There's always a first step in everything, and just taking action without fully seeing the full picture at the end is always good to get a better perspective, right? To know more. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. All right, Ryan, really appreciate you coming on. I think you've shared a great number of golden nuggets of wisdom here. So hopefully our viewers can enjoy that. And yeah, for everyone who's looking to get started in investing, Ryan is one of our investment coaches in the Niagara region. He's helped a good number of investors buy some amazing deals actually over the last couple of months, and he's been doing a terrific job. So for those of you who are interested, I'll put a link below where you can contact Ryan. And until next time, all the best.
Awesome. Thanks, Koukun. Thanks for having me on.